Okay, everyone have. Today we have three theme topics to discuss. First is about trend and technologies, and also preparing and transformation in a digital railway. And also the last one is about opportunities, how to build business industry in Thailand. I would like to start with the first one, and I would take turns starting from each of you. Start with the trend and technology. So it's about how everyone and each of company can introduce your company and the latest trend and technology in your expertise or in your company. Please start with Mr. Andrew, please.
Certainly, thank you very much. Thank you for the kind introduction. As we said, I'm Andrew Smith. I'm from Bentley Systems, who are a software company that produce civil engineering software that's used for design, construction, and operation and maintenance. I've been working exclusively in rail software for over 30 years, so I've seen a huge amount of change over my time. And when we look at the trends and technologies, something I want to quickly bring up is actually the challenge that those trends can give us. In rail, we'll often construct an asset that has a life cycle of 30, 40, 50 years. In the UK, we have assets still in use that are 150 years old in the rail network. So it's trying to actually balance the longevity of the assets that we're putting out into the rail world with the opportunities that are actually given to us by the digital transformation and digital technology that sit underneath them. When I first started out in rail, it was CAD was the big thing that was being brought forwards, and the efficiency gains from that, rather than using pen drawing, which may date me slightly. And then we moved on from there towards having electronic enterprise asset management systems to automate the management of the operational and the life cycle to some extent. Then we introduced BIM, Building Information Management, which helped us to actually start collaborating, to work together more effectively, to be able to deliver things on time, to identify problems sooner, and give a consistent way of working. The new technologies that we're seeing around the world moving in is the digital twin, which is actually very much a complementary solution to BIM, where what we're doing is we're looking at bringing together the data sets that we have throughout the entire life cycle of the asset, so we can understand in one place what the design intent was, the as constructed, any standards and manuals that are in place, all of the condition data, all of the maintenance records that took place to give us the current state. From that, we can then start looking into the future and predicting and simulating what may happen going forwards into the future. So the critical thing the digital twin is doing for us is breaking down the silos that we have between all of these separate data sets. We have silos between the asset disciplines and silos between the asset life cycle as well. So I guess at a high level, that's the key area that I would look at and I'm passionate about.
Great. And please hand to Mr. Stephen.
I think firstly, let me take a few minutes to introduce Huawei. I'm from Huawei Technologies. Huawei has involved into real industry for 28 years. We committed to do digitalization for real industry around the global market. We have cooperated with a lot of railway operators, including mainline, metro, and freight transportation part. And we have done a lot of innovative solutions from Huawei side. What we proposed, what we contributed for real industries, we focus on the ICT part. Actually, yesterday I have discussed what's the architecture we focused for railway industry. So we have a different layer. First layer is connectivity part. So we have a lot of requirements regarding collected data from trackside station and to control center. And then you need more high bandwidth and a lot of IoT and so on, this kind of data. I mean, huge data should transmit from train and trackside to a control center. So what Huawei have done is we can provide it's wireless and wireline communication systems. Wireless, we have LTM, which is LTE for metro. So actually, for railway, for metro, we have LTE for metro and Wi-Fi 6. For wireless communication between the train to ground. For railways, it's different. So UIC have defined the FRMCS, this kind of new standard. So we will replace the GSMR in future for the digitalization. So Huawei also can provide this different wireless communication between train and the ground. For the wireline communication part, is we have an optic IP network and so on. It's kind of so. This is the first layer. The second layer is platform, the cloud technology, AI, big data, and so on. It's kind of new technologies. The up layer is applications, and maybe we should focus on with its graphic user interface to provide more smart and more clear interface to management and employee and so on. This kind of things is we are working for this part. Like the digital twin just mentioned by Andrew. So it's the same. I mean, the whole architecture, if you finish it, it's one kind of digital twin. Yeah, this is what we are doing. So actually, so Huawei side is we have provided our solution for currently for more than 150,000 kilometers for railway lines, and we also provide this kind of communication solution for more than 300 metro lines. So thanks for your time. Yeah, this is my information.
Yes, please, and your turn, Mr. Christian.
Yes, thank you. First of all, no doctor to make that record clear.
No more.
No more. Not that educated, but very experienced. And that's a bit of the topic that I want to talk and touch later on. So first, Siemens Mobility, global company. What is special for Siemens Mobility is actually that we're kind of end-to-end provider. And that is the integration, right? So Siemens is not really good at just selling individual products. It's about the whole network technology. It's about the integration for operation and maintenance processes. This is why we invest a lot in digital topics as well, to improve that. And you see that also in Bangkok. I think the availability of the trains and the punctuality of the trains, they're extremely high. Now, so latest technology. And I would say it's not necessarily about the latest technology if you come to a railway. It's about the technology improvement step that you can do, right? And we have to acknowledge that time still ticks slower in railways. So Siemens, of course, looks at digital metaverse and what all of that. And in industry and in building, they look at it. Till this comes down to railway, there will be a long path. We need to see what we can contribute now to improve energy efficiency, to improve decarbonization, to improve adaptation of railways for the people. That's the focus. There is technology step, but it's not the latest technology. And that brings me now a few words not to Siemens. I'm also here as representative of GTRA, German Thai Railway Association. Siemens learned itself that we have the full stack of systems. We are not the only system provider in place. We can't do it alone. If we look at challenges, decarbonization, we look at cybersecurity, we can't do it alone. So that's why also Siemens is part of GTRA. We're trying as a strong association with industry, with university, as well as with the operators, also to give chance to the ministry and to the decision makers, how can we get faster? And in the end, it boils down to standardization, that you can work together. This is the way to bring the industry up, and that is the task of GTRA, and you could even say that's a European initiative, because we needed to standardize so much in Europe to bring that up.
Now let's move to Dr. Napat from the research field.
Thank you for your introduction, all of you as well. I'm from Chiang Mai University. I have worked for I have two affiliations. At the moment, I take a charge of the Associate Dean for International College of Digital Innovation. It's newly founded in 2017. So in 5 years, we have done the teaching and research in the area of the fintech technology, like the blockchain, also the big data analytics, e-commerce, and digital law. So now we start to apply all of this knowledge and the technology for the rail industry with the collaboration with RTRDA just this year. So we hope that with our experience in the fintech technology, we can apply those digital technology to the railway technology as well. Okay.
Thank you very much. So this is an introduction of each of panelists. Then with the next one, I would like to see the perspective or your idea or what you imagine in the future of railway transportation in the future with the influence of digital technology development. So, okay, let's start with Andrew first.
Thank you once again. Can I quickly say I completely agree with my colleagues, in particular that technology, railways tend to be quite, we're not at the cutting edge necessarily, and there's always a gap between the art of the possible in technology and the reality that you get on the ground in terms of software that is actually in use. And oh, sorry. Maybe I should just talk louder instead. So, hopefully you can hear me more clearly there. So again, there's a gap in between the technology and what's possible and what actually gets used. But critically as well, technology, and this is odd coming from a technologist, is simply a tool. You don't get any value or benefit purely from putting technology in place. What we're trying to do is change process. We're trying, exactly as you said, we're trying to work smarter, we're trying to work faster, we're trying to work cheaper, we're trying to be more efficient, to do things differently. And that is a process change that is driven from the top of the organizations down, so we need to get that buy-in at the top level to have a digital transformation put in, which means we need to be able to evidence the digital transformation. So one of the first things I see in the future is there's going to be more sharing of success stories, of value that people have got from different forms of digital transformation that have taken place around the world that can be used to evidence at CEO, CTO level, and even more importantly at government level what changes. From my background in the UK, one of the big pushes in terms of BIM was a government mandate saying if you're actually going to start, you're doing government-funded projects, you're going to get that funding coming through, you have to use BIM in terms of technology, which forced the owner-operators to mandate it, which forced the supply chain maturity to increase. And that supply chain maturity that goes to education. It is critical that we actually get education coming in, both at the senior levels in organizations of value, but also in terms of the entire supply chain, in terms of capability, and getting rid of the fear that they have of the change that's in place, while demonstrating the opportunity and the benefits that they can see going forwards. All of that said, I think the changes that we're seeing in the world and the rate of change are inevitable. So AI is a beast that is moving on at a phenomenal speed. My background before railways was actually artificial intelligence 35 years ago. I don't recognize it these days. Everything I learned about is on my phone now, as technology children play with. And that's how far we've come in terms of those advancements. I think standards were mentioned as well. It's going to become more and more critical as we're going forwards that there are going to be standards in place, both for the ways that we work, but how we actually pass data over, how we interoperate with that data as well, to make sure that we can actually start building bridges between the silos. Silos cause huge problems in the railways. It means we're making decisions about a symptom. We see a piece of data, and we say, I'm going to act on that piece of data. What we have to do is break the silos and see it in context. So it's a measurement of condition. We want to see the history. We want to see the environment, the maintenance around it in the operational world. And once you've pulled all of that together, you can stop treating the what has happened and start treating why it has happened, and then give yourself a more stable system going forward. This is going to be an evolution that we have. And it's up to railways to try and balance being at the bleeding edge of technology with actually not falling so far behind that they can't entice the next generation of school leavers with technology. If we don't show them a technologically advanced environment to go into, they'll simply go into other asset disciplines and will fall even further behind. So education and standards, absolutely critical, and digital technology as a tool. Those are my key messages from there.
So I think from our side, it's, if we talk about railway transportation, so actually very important market is, from our understanding, it's because we look, I think we are managing the global market. So we think the three areas is a very important market for rail transportation, actually even for transportation whole. So the first one is Asia, of course, including China. So this is the first one. And the second one is Europe. So Europe will do an integrated transportation, including rail, water transportation, and air transportation, and so on. So the third one, I think, is America. So Ireland, yeah, is the whole continent. Yeah. Actually, so these three areas, all of them has done very clear layout for future railway digitalization. So for example, for Europe, they have done, I remember it's the smart mobility for transportation. I remember the name is like this. And then they have defined a clear roadmap to 2030 or 2050. And then the key point from this kind of strategy, I mean smart railway, smart transportation strategy is, the first one is green. Yeah, that means in future all the transportation, including railway and so on. So all the transportation should be green. Yeah. So a lot of transportation from the road, from from airline and so on will transfer to railway transportation, including freight transportation and so on. That's the first point. The second point is smart. So what's the smart is a lot of digitalization, digital technology should design into railway transportation part. And if we zoom in to see the details, what kind of smart we wanted to do, is the first one is universal platform. So data space, actually the word defined in Europe is data space. That means all the data from different transportation domain, water, airline, and the rail, and the freight, and so on, all the data should be put into one universal data space. The second one is 5G to provide the transmission between the trackside to station and the control center. The third one is some, I think, AI and big data, this kind of cloud, this kind of new technology. So I think if we check the smart part, I think these three new technology should be considered in the future. The third one, I think, for the trends in the future for railway and for transportation is for mass mobility as a service. That once we have integrated data and so on, so that means in the future, the road, water transportation, and the airline, and so on, and the rail, including the freight, and so on, and taxi, and the bus, and so on. Everything should put together and share information to end customers, I mean the passenger. So you can, once you get out of your home, so you can get a clear routine and the time, and so on, this kind of information to the destination. So from China market, from American market, it's the same. For China, for Asian market, for American market, it's the same. They have defined a clear roadmap to 2030, like this, 2050, how to go ahead and what's the planning and so on. So this is, I think, the main idea I may share here. So the key point is first green, the second is smart, the third one is mass. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Yes.
Just in terms of what you said, I absolutely agree. But I think that the consumers going forward into the future, the green issues will become higher priorities. So when you look at multimodal technologies, people won't just be looking at price or looking at time, they'll be looking at the environmental impact of what they're doing as well. And that needs to be fed in as an integral part of the journey that people are taking so they can make those more informed decisions.
Okay. Can I? Okay. So that there is that.
I just did try to remember all the points that I
So that
wanted.
there is no disruption. Okay. So I think in the future, I think we, especially for Thailand, I hope in 10 years we can have the so-called mobility as service, fleet as a service, maintenance as a service. So by as a service, we mean that you can do everything from the remote area through the IoT technology, cloud computing, blockchain technology. So we can do that. For example, mobility as a service, it's just not for the rail. You connect multimodal through your app. It can even optimize. Suppose I want to go to maybe Pattaya. How can I take, not train, maybe Chiang Mai to Lamphun. How can I get to Lamphun with mobility as service? It will suggest the route and the way of carry me to there. From train to maybe to the local bus, or if I want to hire a bicycle, it give a suggestion where can I get the bicycle hiring. So that is what I say for Thailand. And maybe we are, of course, we are not the developing country for the country that develop the technology, but we can use all of this data to create such kind of the service. Okay.
Okay, thank
Sorry.
you. No, good point. And by the way, Siemens Mobility offers mobility as a service, right? So the point is more the future, that is what will come and what could come, right? Now, if we want more passengers to jump on rail, they will demand mobility as a service. If we don't get there, we get the train enthusiasts, they will keep riding the train. They will always tell you, just keep my 1920 train, I love it, right? So if we want the public to use more public transportation, it needs to be able for them, it needs to be accessible, right? And it needs to catch what they expect. So mobility as a service is a must if you want to increase the ridership significantly in the future. Otherwise, you will not achieve that. And that goes to actually to Andrew. BIM, you say the government mandated it. Why did the government mandate it, BIM?
Well, the background was actually they looked and they found the evidence for BIM could actually increase reliability, it could reduce cost overruns, it could reduce time overruns. So it's reliability and efficiency.
Correct.
Yeah.
For me, that's the cost point that I wanted to come. So Dr. Karin Luger, yesterday in the morning, she said average all mobility projects are exceeding 40% of the budget, 46, whatever. And why is that? The core point is time. They exceed the time, and time just on the financing of the money till it makes money, right? This is your cost overrun. So one issue is approvals, right? You send in a design, you change something, how do you get this approved? So why is BIM mandated? It makes the approval process so much faster and reliable in time. Hence, the timing for the financing sticks to it. It doesn't outrun, it reduces the chance that a project overshoots. If we go again, then you don't need to go back to the public and say, well, I spent 50% more, but it was the other government that was at fault, right? So this all comes in play. Now, if we think of future of railway, what could it be? The core point is targets. The core point is from operators, from ministries, from decision makers, from mayors, whoever is in charge, clear-cut targets. Like with the BIM, we need a predictable timeline for approvals, and that's why it makes sense to have this digital tool and not send in copies and get lost on the way. So targets, and from these targets derive what does it mean I need to implement. I want to achieve that. So I want more people to ride it. So in the future, they will demand mobility as a service. So what do I need to make in terms of laws and regulations to get there? So making sure that different operators, you want competition, but then they need to have one platform, right? So under not government control, but under regulation, set the framework. This all comes down to this, setting targets, breaking them down, and honestly look at where are we today, right?
I think the point is that, the point is that we have one side, we have technology, another side, we have institution like mine, right? But the problem is that maybe at the top administrative level, they don't have clear vision. So maybe you go and present them the technology, but they don't understand. Yeah. So we have to help each other. You see, we give them education, show them your technology. Let them, maybe if they have no clear idea, we give some him what you can use, make use of that. You see, otherwise, they don't know what they want. Say in software engineering, we say that you don't have the right requirement. So they don't have the right requirement. You develop software for them. After that, 1 year you go and sell them. Tell this is what like the tax system problem in the US. After some time, they said this is not what we want. Finish.
I would say when you talk about mobility as a service, one thing that's critical there is that needs to be identified as a requirement right at the start. It is so much easier than retrofitting afterwards. If it's a requirement, you can design for mobility as a service, you can construct for mobility as a service, and then when you flow into operations, it becomes easier. The big challenge that you find there is that technology is actually evolving at a much faster rate. So the technology that you can apply,
select the right one.
Even between coming up with requirements and going to detailed design, I look at Crossrail in the UK, the iPad was invented. And it was a disruptive piece of technology. And so they actually chose to change the way they were delivering the project to encapsulate and embrace the new technologies that are in. But you have to actually make sure those requirements you're not designing to construct. The reason you are designing is because you're actually trying to add value to the lives of the people who are using the system at the end, reliably and safely, and get them using this mode of transport rather than others, or spanning the right modes of transport to reduce congestion and to make the cities flow and the countryside flow more easily. And that's what we need to design right from the outset.
Okay.
Yeah, I think actually, so when we discuss with CXO, CEO, and so on, CIO, and so on, this kind of level from real industry, a very challenging question from them is, because Huawei only provide ICT infrastructure, so what's your benefit for our transportation part? It's very challenging, right? So actually, so in railway operator, so in railway company, the CEO level is only see what's the efficiency, what's the transportation capacity, and how to improve all these kind of things. So from our side, it's tools, yeah, like you mentioned, it's only technology. We can improve, but how to see what's the benefits, how to I think estimate the benefits to our customers. It's a big challenge. We try to do these kind of things. For example, we can save your cost, construction cost in ICT part 20% or 50% by new technology for cloud and so on. We can improve your capacity by various communication. For example, for freight railway transportation, so we can provide various communication to synchronize the control information for different locomotive, like locomotive control and this kind of technology. We can improve your capacity and so on. We try to mention to CEO level, so what's benefits what's benefits from the digitalization part. Actually, so it's a big challenge. So actually, so we should Yeah, maybe you
And
can mention.
short comment on that, and hopefully I can transition to your next part. It's actually transformation, and transformation is not just the passengers and the workers. It's the sea level as well, right? So if somebody tells me, what do I save in money with digitalization? I tell him, show me your financial process, and I can tell you this. So it's not just this open the book, and here is a car that runs 50 kilometers per hour faster, and that means you can achieve the target faster, right? But then you say, well, there are a lot of other cars in my way. So it really understands in the process, and that needs a mindset change. And part of that is also, right, coming with targets, saying the public will demand ESG criteria whatsoever, the governments and the regulatory bodies, they will put it in. So you can be at the forefront for your customers. That might be a target. Staying relevant might be a target. So this is actually transformation, not just in using technology, it's transformation in how we perceive business.
I think the keyword you say, to change to the mindset. I think one of the big problem when we introduce any technology is the change management. You get the resistance immediately, especially for operational levels. That they have to spend time on learning. So why should I waste my time on that? What do I get? So the change management is important. I think it's one of big challenge. I used to work on some project on knowledge management. We try to implement the so-called knowledge management system, KMS. After we capture the knowledge from the expert, we implement it. But maybe after some time, no one use that KMS. Even it is very helpful for the workers, you see, because they don't want to learn the technology. They think it's difficult. So the chain of mindset, we need to have a proper chain management. Right? You introduce many technologies, many software, It's good. How to make them, how to convince them really that it helps your life better. Okay? That's my opinion.
I think I give the floor to four of you. You can talk all day. Okay. I think that we can see like how the future of railway transportation, and they also bring the dreams and also some challenges. But because I'm from Thailand, and I'm concerned more about like how we can implement this in rail and what challenges. Also from your perspective, from Europe, from the UK, and from global side. And maybe I can also wrap up, Dr. Napat can wrap up in Thailand how this is challenge have been in the digital transformation, especially in railway industry. So can I start with Andrew first? But if you want to show some of your fancy slides, just let me know.
I think we might be okay for now for slides, maybe pull some in a few minutes. We've covered some of the challenges for digital transformation already, I think. The first one is actually getting the understanding, and several people talked about this, at the top level of the organisation, of the value that they expect to get out of it. What is the return? Can you actually get them to commit resources today to get benefits tomorrow out of the system that's being put in place? And that is, as we said, it's education is a lot of that, it's evidence is a lot of that as well, that we need to be able to bring together to help understand where we can get change. The next challenge that we find is we get resistance within individuals, but it's almost a split two ways. You've got those who've been doing the job for a while, don't like being told by IT companies how to do their job different or better, they're resistant to change, but the younger generation are expecting a different way of working that's coming in as well, and it's managing the balance between those two is always going to be a problem, a challenge to us. And you mentioned process change as well, which to me, everything we're talking about here, technology is a tool, technology that's changing, yes, it's nice, it does all the things you need. The critical thing in here is actually managing the process change that we've got. So we've got buy-in to it, and then we're implementing it in a stable, secure, reliable, measurable fashion, and potentially incrementally rather than just doing a big bang approach to it as well. Ensuring that the technology is in line with the processes, the supply chains are in line with that in terms of maturity being bought up, and we're actually seeing value at each step along the way in turn. And all of those need to go together in harmony effectively in order to be able to deliver the changes that are in place. If you're missing one of those components and you put technology in without changing the process, it doesn't work. I've been there, I've seen that, it doesn't work. If you try and change the process without the tool underneath it, you have the same problem. If you don't have the commitment from the top, it just falls by the wayside, the mandates aren't put in place.
This one I agree with you. I think the challenge to my view, I think the vision, especially for the top level, they must have the vision of what is going on. So the first challenge for me is the vision of the top level, administrative level. The second one, especially for Thailand, we say we are the user of the technology mainly. We may have many scientists, but still for the organization, we don't have the knowledge workers and skillful workers. So even if we try to bring the technology, they cannot take it. They have no knowledge. The third challenge for me is that we don't have the technology. We don't have our own, especially our own.
Yeah, I mean, so from my side, I think totally agree with. Technology is now, we have almost is ready. So for communication, for cloud, AI, and so on. So almost is ready. I think the problem is, we say is the vision, and then the target is very clear. So from C-level, whatever, and so on. So we should do digitalization and smart in future. Technology almost is ready. So, but not for transportation, not for real industry. So the big gap is the vision and the technology. We should long journey to do engineering and match the technology with your business and match your procedure and so on, this kind of things. Nobody is very clear how to go, which way is the best one, and how to match your the final target and so on. So this is I think it's a big gap. So when we talk with C-level customers, so the request from our side is, if you want to do digitalization, it's okay. First condition is, this digitalization project we see should be C-level project. Because how to do is not clear. No experts can, I think, can handle this kind of end-to-end things and so on. So C-level must have a strong decision to do this kind of things. They should, like, before we deploy the ERP, maybe 20 years before, so nobody know how to optimize the procedure. So it must be C-level project to do this kind of projects. So this is the first, I think, challenge. The second challenge is actually, so I think in real industry, a lot of people, experts and so on, discuss the digitalization and the smart, real and so on, this kind of words. But actually, so from our understanding, it's the whole ecosystem is not ready. So, for example, if we done this kind of digitalization, we should have a consultant company, right? You have a clear how to optimize the procedure for transportation and how to organize this kind of project and what's the benefits, of cost, and so on, blah, blah, yeah? So this is the first thing. The second one, integrate. You see how many projects can do this kind of end-to-end digitalization project. Siemens and Alstom maybe in future, we hope, so we can cooperate together to do this kind of job. So, but actually, so for the global market, it's a lot of integrate should come from local. For Thailand, the integrate should come from local. Because if you want to do digitalization, that means you should touch the core procedure and the data from our customers. So this kind of things should be handled. Mostly from our understanding is from local. So that means the second challenge is the ecosystem should be ready and so on. For technology, it's not so mature, but from our understanding is if we can get the project and the investment from outside, we can combine and develop very quickly for this part. So technology, we don't worry about this point. So I think the bigger challenge is we see is the first one and the second one.
What do you think?
So I actually want to talk a bit of communication, and we saw non-verbal communication. Dr. Pintip took away my mic, saying I'm talking too much. But Professor Napat, the point from the vision to implementation, there is a big part of communicating this thing. So maybe question, Dr. Pintip. So the government said to you the target, we want to have rail industry and we want to export. So how is it communicated down to you? What should you actually do, right? And communication is not broadcasting. This is also very important, and that in Asian culture has a challenge, right? It's a talk, and I think in the ERP implementation, the point is, yes, have a vision and stick to it and have the breadth of it, but it will not be implemented like you planned it 5 years ago, right? So in these digital topics, they're so new. You need to have a vision, you need to start small, you need to start with people. And you need to have a way of communicating. Why is what we do, paying into the longer target, but also how is there a chance that you, user, small user, big user, whatever, tell me how does it need to change? We had a great hypothesis in the beginning, but it didn't work totally. Fine, we need to pivot. And then the third part, for this to be adopted, it needs to be scalable. It needs to be flexible. So I come always back, it's actually the communication of visions and targets into what interfaces I need. I don't want that a president says, hey, this BIM technology is super. That's it for the next 100 years, right? It's more of, in order to use it, which technology interfaces the different players need to have, in a framework way, thinking ahead what may come, right? On the energy side, I came here by BTS in the morning, and it was packed. It was packed. I didn't get into the first. Now, knowing the system a bit, you would say, well, maybe we bring more trains on, or maybe the trains get longer. Yes, yes, yes. But the limitation is, for example, the power system, right? Longer trains, more trains need more power. Is my power system built for it? So this is where we have to think of interfaces and think also future extension use cases into this portfolio. And the challenge is really give me your use case and give me your return on invest, and then we do this. And you even save 20% on that, whatever. So we really need to communicate better why is it important to invest in interfaces, and then not being locked in with companies. Competition helps speed and adoption.
In terms of risk management, we call this one risk communication. We must find proper way how to convey our message to them regarding the risk. The risk doesn't mean only bad side, also good side. So,
How is this working today?
very difficult.
Room for improvement.
Very, very difficult. But I think the main difficulty because they don't have enough knowledge. So if you have enough, they have enough knowledge, they know what is digital, then I think they feel they have less anxiety, I think.
Correct, right? If the president says, I want rail industry, and then you come with a container of, and these are the standards you need to write in law, you lost him, right? Even though the message might be completely right, right? It's really trying to say, look, this we can do, that helps us in this way, that helps you in the other region. And those are the risks and chances with it. And risks is also, right, delay, time, and so on.
With numbers.
Yes, with numbers. But linking that, how this pays into the target, right? I think this is whereas it's communication part that we, also in industry, we have to go beyond the technology and communicating why it makes sense to adopt it and what are the big chances and the preparations for the players to stay relevant in the future.
Okay, then what I heard from you, then I can wrap up a little. Andrew, do you want to? Okay.
Actually, no, I will just quickly.
Okay. I'll take it from you.
Yes, you'll take my mic away.
Indeed, you've talked about these. One of the critical things that the technology should be trying to do for us out of this is actually delivering measurements against its own performance as well. So this is a slightly more microscopic thing that we're asking. So rather than having the measurement not happening or be separate, it should be by design that you can look at the efficiency gains that you're getting, the number of clashes in designs that you've got, the number of repeat faults that have been registered that sit in the operational world, and these should be flagged up, self-policing, and effectively using technology to help us understand and optimize technology in turn as well. And one of the challenges we do have, and again, this is a technology detail, and we've kind of talked about the bigger picture things, is every rail owner operator globally that I have ever spoken to has data in silos. Lots and lots of little silos. Again, it's a huge topic that we haven't covered. One of the most critical things that we need to do is break down those silos that we have inside data. And yes, we need the process change and the vision, and all of these things are vital on top. But we need to get data out of these dark buckets that this asset discipline has this piece of data that they collect for this purpose. And they use it for this purpose and nothing else. But the value that sits in there to other asset disciplines or to the system as a whole needs to be extracted. And we use, I'm sure, a fraction of a % of the potential of the data that we have. You talk about big data. It's not, we have an ever-increasing number of Vs. It's not just the volume of data that we've got, it's veracity is one of the key things. How hard is it to extract information from there, as well as how often it changes. But almost the most critical V in there is visibility into big data. How can we actually reach in and extract information in order to be able to help make decisions going forward? And that, to me, again, I started talking about digital twins. The digital twin, which we all have variations on that technology, so I'm not talking about an individual company, it's the concept that sits behind it, is breaking down those barriers in order to enable us to get more value from the data that we have.
Yeah. So I think if we want to discuss the data part, so maybe from my side we can share more information what we have done and what's the challenge, I think difficulties we have met in some projects. So actually, so for data we have do some this kind of innovation in global market. So for example, in metro part, in 1 line, so now almost it's more than I think 10 subsystems from different domains. AFC, CCTV, and PEs, and so on, blah blah. A lot of subsystems integrated together before. But before, in the traditional, I think construction model is different system have different have independent data space for itself. And what we've done is we centralize, use big data. So you find it should be huge data now, structured data, semi-structured data, non-structured data, and a lot of log from different systems, this kind of information. It's huge, vast, and difficult to make it clear. So what's the first step from our side is we can define which kind of data should be benefit to our business. So we see it's data architecture. We should define the first. We see it's data architecture or data standard should be clear firstly for project. So we have done. So actually, from our side, we have defined a lot of architecture for our customers to do if they want to do this kind of digitalization. First one is technical architecture. I just mentioned the connectivity platform and blah blah. This is the first kind of architecture we should define. Actually, so before this one, we should have a business architecture. So what's your final target? Passenger transportation capability, time, and so on. This cost and so on. This kind of thing should be clear. And the technical architecture. And then you should define the data architecture and the data standard I just mentioned. And also we have a lot of things that should be done. So I may share more information regarding the data part. Yeah.
Okay, I think the problem of the data is especially for Thailand. For Thailand. When I just finished my PhD in 1997, I came back to Thailand. One of my senior colleagues asked me to go to Ministry of Commerce. We tried to model the price of the rice or something. But at that time, we didn't have the data, the systematic collection of the data, so we finished. But in this way, I think the digital transformation is good. It's exactly what is digital technology helps. Because we can use the connectivity, I mean all of the something like sensor, RFID, okay, accelerometers, and camera to help us to collect the data. And from this one, it becomes big data. Then we can analyze, because from my point of view, we have a lot of methodologies, mathematics model. We have methodology to solve. We can do it. But the problem is that what we solve is a Mickey Mouse problem, a toy problems. Rob laugh. So he agree with me, right? Rob, he is mathematician. So we solve Mickey Mouse problem. We get good publication, many citation about the methodology. But if some reviewer, they are very critical, they will ask, for example, in my case, if they send some paper for me to review, I will ask, what is your real world problem that you can show me? But the problem is that they cannot show me the real world problem because they don't have the data. Say large scale data. We don't have. But now with digital technology, you can do it. For example, in optimization of a timetabling, we need for example, the time that the passenger spend on walking from the entrance to the gate of the train. We have smart card, automatic fare charging card. But I think how can we detect? Because we know only at the entrance from one station and exit. I think maybe if we produce the RFID system, you check the time when they pass through the entrance, and you install the RFID system at the gate of the train. We know that that guy used from the time from walking until they step in the train. So maybe we have some idea about the waiting time. You see, so digital technology help us. Sorry, you have already, I know. That's good. Sorry. Okay, Kristen.
No, please.
No, that is my idea. The problem is the data.
Good. And now I said in the beginning I have experience because we connected trains here, blue line, green line, signaling. We did cybersecurity. And the issue is really about Mickey Mouse problems. When I came here, I said, well, what's your pain points? And then they told me once in 10 years, the interlocking breakdown, and I want to stop that. And then in the end, I asked, what did it cost you? Nah, nothing. It was just in the press. And then I found something out. They go out every every night doing the same thing, and then they say, but Chris, this is not a pain point. I do this every day. I know exactly what to do. So I stopped all this. In the end, what we settled was that I connected and I collected the data that was there. I didn't put new sensors in and so on. I collected the data that was there, and then we built from there, right? In the beginning, you use 5% of the data, and it will grow with the people. It's the same with this. If the time is actually a point, you don't start with RFID tags, and this will never work. You use your cameras that you anyway have there, right? You look at data that is there. So now, how do we get to the point that data is there? And there's something else, right? In Thailand, published a report about road safety, the travel time. I think it's up 2018 or something. That was a good data level. Now, if the government would say, I want the data about ridership from the operator directly, not on a paper, or I want the energy consumption directly. So you already need to have an interface, right? That forces everybody to implement something. If you start somewhere, people say, oh, I need to submit anyway these 2 data points. Well, then why not use the rest of that?
Sorry, Christian, they will say that it's business secret.
No.
Business confidential.
No. And there, I'm here for the business, right? So if the MOT says, look, dear BEM, dear BTS, dear Area 1, I need this data points from you. What are they doing? They're writing it in the tender and say, dear Siemens or dear Huawei, you need to give me this data points at least because I need to give it to the government. And then the industry has a chance to say, oh, I don't like Thailand. I play with China,
actually,
or they deliver.
The way I say, actually, I want to say that is a big problem of Thailand. We have many organizations. So what I want to make a point is that it is the role of the government to force them to show their data. Because this is my own opinion. Each organization think that the data is their own asset. So they can control all many things like the budget and so on based on data. So the government has to force them to retrieve the data. All organizations, even private sector. So we need the legislative law for this one.
It's legislative law, but then actually backed by contractual requirements. So the contracts that go down into the supply chain, we see this even in BIM, in design and construction. When you're delivering the physical asset, but you have a second deliverable, which is the digital twin. The representation of the asset is a mandated deliverable, and you only get payment for the work you've done when you have delivered the physical version and the digital data that actually supports the work that you need going forward. And that should belong to the owner-operator. It shouldn't sit, the supply chain shouldn't be telling or knowing things about the asset that the owner-operator doesn't. That needs to be pulled up to the owner-operator, and it needs to be mandated down that that happens.
Also, the reliability of data, very important. Few seconds. Right.
Now, because this time is the clock is ticking, and I would like to give more time for audience to ask.
Okay.
But before that, you guys can. I think this is very lively discussion, and all partners are enjoying doing this.
Maybe sorry, I'm too active.
And we also have all stakeholders in our ecosystem. I think today we all have regulators. We have here today. Maybe, no. But for sure we have operators. We are not. We have operators sitting here, many people I know, and also from government side from us, like a connector, from research and industry, and also from academic, many more. So maybe if you have some questions, think about it, and before ending the last question, I'm sure ending the last question, you guys have more opportunity to ask. Yeah. To wrap up, what about the challenges, and also you bring also something that the next question that I would like to ask you, but the challenges that I see the point into implementing and also adapt us into digital transformation. Not now, this is more in general, not only in the railway industry, but also in other sector too. Is about communication that you said, and the process that we need to make it more clearer, and also the technology that Ajahn Napat may be concerned about that. And the main thing is about the vision from the top level, that they have to see the importance of how to change this and make it better. So then the last question that I would like to ask you for, can you answer for 5 minutes? Few minutes, please. Then you can have more time for other people to ask more questions. I would ask what can the government sector or other regulators can support into this to make the implementing and the changes happen better in, or maybe not in Thailand, but in your experience, and also in Thailand if Ajahn Napat can express more, but can give to the Andrew first.
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of this already in terms of discussions as well, but making sure that there are government mandates in place that actually have standards backing them, saying this is the way that we want work to be done going forward, but then making sure that the support framework is in place as well. So a great example within Crossrail in the UK, when that was implemented, they decided when BIM was new, they were going to implement BIM standards, so they were going to have a collaborative approach. They put the contractual mandates in, they put the standards in, all the processes, but they also had a team that actually was part of the owner-operator, where if anybody in the supply chain couldn't cope, they didn't have the maturity, rather than just going out and saying, you're not doing it right, you're not doing it right, the team would go in and work with them. So the owner-operator's dedicated team would go in and work with the supply chain to increase the maturity to get them to be able to deliver properly as well. And that was actually a change of mindset. So rather than a contractual relationship you had, or a strictly contractual relationship, it was a more collaborative way of working that was put forward into this major project to make sure that everybody was working together and understood why. And there was much more openness about the way the project was being run, and people were actually starting to support each other in delivery rather than just thinking, we're ahead, they're behind, that's good, I can step back. Because the feel, the mood behind the project was very much more one goal and one vision to deliver a successful system on time, rather than separate suppliers delivering their bit on time and then stepping away and saying, not my problem. It also meant that you could try and find any systems integration problems at an earlier stage, simply because there was better communication taking place between the different parts of the supply chain. And the one last bit of kind of 30 more seconds, a rule of thumb that we were talking about before we came up that I was always given was, if you find a problem and it costs you $1 to fix in requirements, then it will typically cost you $10 to fix the same problem in conceptual design, $100 in detailed design, $1,000 in construction, and $10,000 in operation. The collaboration that we're trying to put forwards all the way here is trying to pull any issues that you find early into that process so that you minimize the cost and the time overrun that you're encountering.
I think from my side, it's the government and the regulator is, I think the requirement for them is very simple. First one is define the policy, very clear rule, and define some standard for operation, for and so on, for digitalization and so on. So this is the first thing. The second thing, of course, is put more, I think, budget in project. So a lot of innovation should be done from the practice, from the projects. So if government didn't invest on the innovative project from lab, from pilot project, and then from the commercial project, so we should go forward step by step. So that means second thing. So I think simple from my side, I think the government and the regulation should be done. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, please
I forgot.
take this side.
I got stolen mine. No, so what can the government do? I think I would put a bit meat to the bone of the claims. So this is really breaking down the vision that's formulated, and that is also not so new. So it's communicated over the past years, which is good, right? There is inconsistency, but what does it mean? And even if you see well, we want digital transformation and it's not happening, then start with small things. A framework saying at least now, right, the things that relate to emissions, so that's power consumption, that's how many people are in. I want that because I want to consolidate it and I want to compare it against my data that I have from trucks. So it's not give me all data that the court will strike down. It is just, I need something, right? And I want that digital. And so it fosters the whole supply chain to react to this. So this can be impulses. Then the second thing, right? Thai railway industry. What does it mean? There is already a big railway industry in Thailand. We heard it, Alstom said they're gonna have 1,000 employees. Siemens has over 1,000 engineers already here doing it for global. We need to recognize that. What will help to drive that up, again, is standardization. This thing is a numbers game, right? So if you want to bring the industry up, do more here, and what we want is people having well-paid jobs, Thailand being recognized, increase the knowledge. Not every project can be something else. You're never gonna learn from your mistakes. You learn, and next time you do it better. So a standardization helps competition. That's the next thing. You use a standard where you have the chance, also Siemens, others, Huawei on communication, to compete, right? And then it brings down the costs, it brings down the implementation time, and increases local content, which is Thai railway industry. And of course, give the right projects to the universities.
Okay, from viewpoint of researchers, I think we need the problem from the government. Because the problem, we can set up many problems, set up mathematical problems, mathematical formulation, but maybe those do not serve the requirement of the government or national development. You see, they give us the problem. It means that we need some good communication between government and university. The real communication. Of course, I think we have many research network. I'm not in that part, okay? I'm very isolated. Anyway, but we still need the real communication. They give the problem to us, and then we can help them solving those problems. The second thing, we need the data. Because we have many mathematicians, many engineers, many scientists. But what else? Again, go back, we can write many papers, good papers. And for what? It's good for our career, of course. We get promotion to be professor and so on. But for the country, what else? Like many say, the research on the shelf in our context. You see? And the third thing, I put in as the last one. Many people say we need the funding. But the funding, I don't think we have got the problem. I think we have many sponsor unit, research unit. I have never applied for those grants because I'm lazy to write the report. I prefer writing academic paper and send to the journal. Sorry. Because I got the funding every 6 months, I have to write a report. So it means that the government should understand also that when they give the grant, they should not expect the report from us. Sometimes 3 months, every 3 months you have to write a report, or 6 months. What can I do? I'm artist, I need more time. So, really. So it means that the government should understand also when they give money. So innovation takes time, you know. Any one of you are Buddhist? Sorry. Are you Buddhist? You know meditation, right? So if you want to go to the 4th level or 8th level, you cannot go directly from 1 to 8. You have to step from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 8. But if you have done very often, you can go from 1st to 8th very well, very quickly, like Western professor, because they are industrial country. They have done that for a long time. But for us, we cannot step from 1 to 8 immediately. But we need time, so government should understand this as well. Do not expect every 3 months I send you a report, 6-month report. You see? Sorry, that is my own opinion.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, it is now from challenges
Okay, thank you.
to the problem and now philosophy of life. We wrap up like this. I think now it's time. We have about 10 to 15 minutes for a Q&A session. So I would like to give this opportunity to our audience to ask questions for. You can point each of our panelists you want to ask, or I think everyone can be welcome to answer your questions. Also, in Thai, I will try to translate. Any questions?
There is a question from this gentleman, and the question is, how can a local developer implement if the access of data has limited as the above picture? Shall the system provider set some input for the provision for the future?
I understand local developers if the systems are somewhere else. If I understand it correctly, let's say if Siemens implements something here in Thailand, as I said, we have more than 1,000 engineers hired, which not our CEO, I think we work with freelancers, but actually we have a lot of modern technologies here that we do in Thailand for the region, and you heard yesterday also saying the same. So apply modern technologies in railways come into play from the industry, apply to the known railway companies in Thailand.
Okay, I see some pictures, draw some pictures, and also, okay, I think the question is how can a local developer, or you mean Thai developers, right, can implement those technology or do this digital transformation if the access of data has limited. So it's from these photos, they cannot put the data into the cloud base, or how they can access all data that they want. Maybe it's also related to the Ajahn part too. Anyone want to answer this question?
I can't answer for Thailand, unfortunately, because I don't know the issue, but I know the issue elsewhere around the world, and it's actually a problem not just for local developers, but even larger organizations. When you're trying to do any research or additional development going forward, being able to get data sets from the owner-operators and from other suppliers of that data, you said you have exactly the same problem as well. It is a global problem that's in place, and I think part of what we talked about before of getting data passed up to the owner-operator as a mandate, and then the owner-operator putting policies in place that mean subsets of that data can be provided out. So you'll find, some US cities, for example, may actually have a data set that they can provide out that contains a range of different pieces of data that developers can start to develop against. From our side, from Bentley side, in terms of under the hood, all of the APIs and mechanisms that we use for talking to digital twins, we've actually put those deliberately into the public domain, specifically so that local developers can develop any of these capabilities as well. And they're using the same APIs that we use to develop our technologies. So we're trying to build that level playing field, but the data isn't something from a pure technology side we can help with, and we actually need that engagement with the owners in particular. I think it has to be the owner, not those who generate the data. They'll see it as a threat. The owners will see it as an opportunity for more competition, more innovation to take place. So hopefully going forwards there will be an opportunity for that data a range of data become more readily available.
Okay, I give you my view.
Yeah.
I think this is a good chance for you. You try to look some other data sources. you have the internet in your hand, you try to look at least if you don't have the data. Let me explain. I spent some time, actually I offer some course in economics because my affiliation now is in economics faculty. One problem the student asks, in economic record, normally we have very short data length, maybe 30 years. If I write a paper using neural network, they say that in principle you need hundreds of data observations. How can I use? I say okay, no problem. Then we focus on development of methodology. So you change your focus on developing your software. If you are a software developer, if you don't have, you try to find the data from outside. It's good. Because then the first thing, when you want to sell your system, you can sell abroad as well. This is a good point. It's your opportunity. But in case you don't have, then you may need to ask expert. What kind of requirements? You know the word requirement, right? What kind of requirement you have? Then you assume that one. Just assume some value. I tell my student, now we cannot do the application side. We have to develop the methodology instead. So you assume some numbers. Maybe you use Monte Carlo, generate some number, and check with those numbers whether it works or not. Validate by simulation. So once you develop your software, you finish. If someone there is the data, then you can test. But I think I'm pretty sure you can sell your idea. Like the neural network, it's long time back. But at that time, we don't have the real data to check our methodology whether it's correct or not. Okay, the same thing. So it's your opportunity. There are some website like data in the world or something. You check in Google, you Googling. You will find that there are many data sources available. Many data, publicly open. Okay, I don't know I help you or not. Thank you.
Any more questions, or you want to
I think make it more clear for this point. I think, of course, the best way is mandate by government and the customers to provide data sharing to developers and so on. But I think from technology viewpoint, we can do something. So, for example, the typical database is Oracle, DB2, and MySQL, this kind of things. So actually, interface between the database to big data place is mature. So you can get it. But the bottleneck is you should get approved. Otherwise, I think you didn't have confidence to handle this kind of things because all the systems are in operation. So this is my suggestion.
Yeah. Any more questions? They answer your questions? Anyone? One more question, please? Maybe Dr. Karawi can would like to ask someone? Okay. And okay, before end the session, Christian would like to show something, and then we will end with Andrew with the digital twins animation. So I will show this for.
Yeah, just really brief, and I think it summarizes that okay. If we think of the future, in our vision, it is really bringing down the silos. Silos are not just organizations, it's also the assets. The rolling stock person is different, and even if you get it all from Siemens, the rolling stock guys don't like to talk to the signaling guys. So it's getting data from all the assets, and you try to get what is there, not to bring thousands of sensors in. That is the first thing. This is where government can help, mandating interfaces, mandating a data transfer. It also includes other data that doesn't come from the asset, ERP, the MMS data, the BIM data, so that this flows together. Does it work all together? It doesn't matter now. You get the interfaces in place, because if you want to use it in 10 years, if you haven't specified it today, it doesn't get built in 5 years, you can't use it in 10 years. So the left side, asset open data interfaces, you mandate that. Then it's about platforms, bringing this together, right? There might be also regulation on how to can I transfer it from platforms? How can I take subsets of data out for universities to do something? So platform topics are important, that focus not on single use case, that have a possibility to recombine data in a way for different users. So that is more on your right side of the slide. And then it ends, it's all the question, why? Why I do this? What do I want to achieve? And am I still on the target achieving that? And that's a bit, I think, oh, one thing I forgot. At the bottom, you see that as we look at new technologies, cybersecurity is, of course, a topic that you need to think right with it. And that goes also for data security, right? If you give data sets out to universities, that needs to be covered, again, from a governmental regulation point of view.
And then let's move to the digital twins from Andrews.
But you say cybersecurity, absolutely agree. That will be another 2 hours on its own as well.
Yes, I can talk about it.
This is just a simple example of what some of this can look like. Very focused. This is in Melbourne, where they're looking at removing all of their grade crossings, their level crossings. So what they've done is they've got the BIM models that are in place. They've linked those through to the Gantt charts that they have. But this is multidiscipline. So they're making changes to the signaling system, to the telecom system, to the stations themselves, to the track, to the road networks that sit around the outside. And they've built a complete digital representation of the work that's going to be done, including any temporary work, so cranes, linked through to the skill sets that are needed for the individuals to be able to drive them, and they can simulate the entire process digitally between all the different disciplines that are actually involved. The beauty of this is, it's my powers of 10 I was talking about. If you find a problem, you want to find it here. And it's not only about the kind of the sequencing and all the bits like that, it's actually looking at the risk. So all the way through, you can actually simulate the risk region around a crane, around a dump truck, things like that. The availability of the path, the safe walking routes that are in place. Because if any risk turns into an issue, that also turns into a delay that you've got as well. So again, just thought we'd show this up as a quick example to show what this can look like, so what a twin can look like spanning over multiple disciplines through part of the life cycle, and give an indication of where the value is, to make sure that by the time you go on site, you've done your briefings, you know what you're doing, you know it fits together, you know there aren't any clashes, you've minimized the risks that are in place, and you've maximized the chances of delivering on time and to budget, which is the focus that we've got in terms of certainly construction side.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think this is now like the end of the session. And I would like to thank all of you, Andrew, Stephen, Christian, and Ajahn Napat for joining us today. And before that, we have I think we have a souvenir from Hub of Talent to give to all of you. Please, I think the size is a T-shirt. I'm not sure the size, but you can change later. Anyone need to help me a little, please? Or maybe this.
Triple XL for us.
XL maybe.
Oh, okay. Good.
Please take photos together. Maybe
New political party.